Amy, Al, you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Perfect. All right. Let's go ahead and get started here. First, thank you all so much for being here. We just want to express immense appreciation for you to taking a few moments out of your day. We all know it's a difficult time for so many as we deal with this ongoing pandemic, which has affected so many of us, and we're all adjusting to working from virtual environments or working from home. So thanks first and foremost for taking a few moments out of your day. We are extremely excited to present our second in a series of webinar demonstrations of our newly released Clearview Property Tax Suite. Last week, we presented our Clearview Valuation Analytics. If you weren't able to be on that presentation, we do have the recording and a copy of the slides we can send to you, so please reach out to us or go to our website in the News and Resources section to access that demo. Today, we'll be discussing and demonstrating Clearview Property Tax Manager, a complete GIS-based tax billing and collection system for local governments. The presentation will be roughly 30 to 35 minutes. We'll have a short question and answer period directly following that. So you can submit those questions, feedback, comments you may have throughout the demo or the presentation today to the chat feature here in WebEx. It should be in your top right-hand corner, or you can send them directly to us at succeed@avenueinsights.com. We'll follow up with an answer or feedback immediately. So first, I'd like to very briefly introduce our guest speakers today. First, my name is Brendan Middleton. I'm a part of the marketing team at Avenue. I'll be your host and moderator. First up, Avenue's business unit leader for our finance and tax group, Amy Walters. Amy is bringing over 20 years of experience serving federal, state, and local governments. Her background has been in geographic information system mapping that has included data development, analysis, and application development. In the past 10 years, she's worked for in partnership with the majority of the major providers across the country for tax and CAMA solutions to state and local government. So Amy, thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this.
Yes, thank you, Brennan.
Next, Avenue's Senior Product Support Analyst, Amy Smith. We've got Amy squared here for us today. So Amy's bringing over 20 years of experience in property tax. She's worked with small and large clients to implement assessment administration and billing and collection systems. And more recently, Amy has been involved in building Minnesota-specific products for the past 7 years and has focused entirely on a range of tax, billing, collection, and settlement functions. So Amy, once again, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Brendan.
And lastly, Avenue Senior Client Executive Al Ailes. Al's bringing, again, more than 18 years of experience in state and local government. He's a certified project manager who has implemented large-scale applications across the globe. Al is a frequent speaker and trainer and specializes in informing strategic alliances and programs that add value to his government clients. Prior to Avenue, Al did lead operations in a southern region for a multinational property tax and appraisal solution provider. So incredibly excited to have Al with us today.
Thank you for having me, Brendan.
So really quickly, let's jump into the agenda, let's lay the foundation for the presentation. First, we'll give an overview of Clearview Property Tax Manager and what the key features that we'll highlight in our demo. Next, we'll discuss how this GIS-based toolset is configurable with any tax valuation system and how it is enabling jurisdictions across the country to streamline property tax administration, expedite tax and billing collection, while also providing multiple payment options. Following that overview and background, Amy and Al will walk us through a live demo. We'll dive right into the product where we will go through the steps for a tax adjustment workflow. And we'll also cover an adjustment process that includes removal of a homestead for a prior year. And finally, we'll talk through extending tax rates for, to determine an updated net tax. So lastly, we'll discuss what next steps are and what success looks like for using Clearview Property Tax Manager. We'll discuss timing, implementation, and a couple other key points to make before we wrap up today. Lastly, we'll have that question and answer period. Don't hesitate to reach out. Please submit those to the chat feature here on WebEx, and we'll be happy to follow up with you. So with that, I will turn it over to Al.
Well, thank you. First off, and welcome. I get the opportunity here to kind of kick this off, and the only speaker not named Amy. So I'm going to run with it. Once again, Al Ailes. I am the Senior Sales Executive for the Finance and Tax Business Unit, and I'm really thankful, again, to echo what Brendan said, that you guys took the time. I've met with and spoken to a lot of you, and it's a pleasure to actually get everybody together here and virtually, and look forward to the opportunity to getting out on the road again and meeting you face to face if I haven't already. So an overview: Clearview Property Tax Manager. Avenue invested a great deal of time and resources into trying to understand the best way to craft this product, and in working in Minnesota and having the deep tenure that we do in the state, really wanted to tackle a few milestones here. One, we knew that we had to build in a robust workflow tool, and those workflows are going to be key in order for you to communicate business and to keep information flowing, not only within your department, if say you're in the treasurer or auditor's office, but across the jurisdiction, right? Information from the assessor that needs to go, management of those tasks, and more importantly, you can actually see where the bottlenecks are. You'll have a couple areas within the application that Amy's going to point out to you, specifically my tasks and pool tasks. So if you are a manager or you do manage some of the resources there, you can see the whole list of workflow items as they stream through. And more importantly, keep an eye on what items are holding things up. And again, the real value add here is it's one tool for the jurisdiction, one database for the jurisdiction. And we certainly built in security parameters and have segmented the access to particular modules per office. But since we're using the same set of information, same records, if you will, we can actually see and stream the information across in these workflows. And then the last piece here, number 3, is the big one, right? Everybody has their reports, and the product comes loaded with canned reports. We knew there's going to be a need for you to see your custom information and to get the reporting information that you do currently and hopefully build upon that. During the implementation process, we're going to go through and go through a requirements definition and lay out what you could see in those reports and what you would have access to and how you can customize them. But after the project team is gone and after the product is implemented, you still have the ability to create custom reports. It's backed with SQL Server Reporting Services, SSRS. It's a mouthful, so I'm just going to call it SSRS. And utilizing that tool is going to be key for creating reports and custom views and queries and all the things that you'll see coming up here. The queries are going to come in a couple different results, right? You have the ability to create a custom query. Amy's going to cover that in depth. You're going to save the result sets of those queries. So if it's a popular one or one that you're using on a regular basis, you can go back to it. And the added advantage here is you can have multiple result sets open, multiple queries open at the same time. If you're interrupted, if the phone rings, you have to step away and handle a constituent at the desk, you can come back and have that result set still open within the application and still see the query information that you were looking for. One last thing on SSRS is building those custom reports is going to be integral to kind of growing how you use the tool. So with one of the great benefits of SQL Server Reporting Services is that you can create a smaller data model. So you don't have to understand the complete architecture of the system, the entire entity relationship diagram, right, the ERD, to create those custom reports. So building these smaller models of just the key attributes that you want to cue in on is a great value add here, and certainly something that we'll review with you during implementation. All right, product features. Tax district and exemption management. Everybody wants to manage exemptions and they have special nuances, and it goes well beyond. Of course, we'll accommodate the veterans, the disabled, your exempt properties, your schools, your cemeteries, but more importantly, diving into that a little bit deeper and utilizing how we can go about the exemptions that kind of fall a little bit outside the norm. Let's say you have an exempted property, be it a church that has a well, I don't know if the church is the greatest example, but a retail storefront, or there's some retail, you can absolutely go into the tool and utilize just a percentage of the property to be exempt. Let's say 10% of the property is being used in this retail aspect. So we're going to have a partial exemption at that point, and Amy's going to cover that in a little bit more depth. There wouldn't be a tax system without billing and collections, of course. The gathering of the levy information, generating those bills, collecting that information, and then payment options, right? We have a full cashiering system. Multiple payment options are available to you. OCR check remittance. If you do have an OCR scanner that sits on the desk, or you utilize those in the back office to process checks, optical character recognition, right? Taking the MICR line off those checks, populating into the system. It's a simple USB connection on the back of the PC, but it populates the information very quickly. We also work with a lot of third-party payment providers. So if you have a long-standing relationship with a payment provider, or you're going to start one, we have a number of them that we've worked with, and those will take the PCI compliance away from both the software provider and, more importantly, the jurisdiction, right? Nobody wants to handle credit card information, and nobody wants to go through the security requirements that are necessary to do that. And that's where the third-party payment providers come in. ACH, automated clearinghouse. We do have the ability to populate ACH files, and that's the standard set forth by the Fed, and transmission of the payment information directly to the bank. We can certainly generate those for you. And rapid manual entry. We've all been there, right? We're sitting at the counter and somebody's coming up, and we need to get information and enter it into for collections pretty quickly. We do have the ability to manually enter the information, but we can do it in a quick fashion. And that's something we can expand upon a little bit further too as we go. On-premise or hosted, the solution is versatile, right? Everybody is looking at the cloud now as the next wave of how to make software and software delivery services more amenable to those smaller jurisdictions, or even the larger jurisdictions. Utilizing the cloud, utilizing the application in a hosted environment, it eliminates the need for you having to do updates and keep the software up to date, and takes all the hardware constraints. We know that oftentimes the technical resources within the counties are stretched thin. Having a hosted solution makes a lot of sense, and is priced accordingly via a subscription level, or we can do the same way we've been installing it for years and years, via an on-premise where the hardware would reside within the jurisdiction. I think this is where I turn it over to Amy.
Thank you, Al, and thank you all for joining us for the next session in our webinar series. I look forward to showing you an overview of Property Tax Manager this week. I do want to assure you that this solution has been developed with our Minnesota customer base and with the understanding of some of the unique needs of this group. We understand Minnesota and have been supporting and partnering with customers and the MCCC for over 30 years. And PTM is no different. From our Minnesota tax calculations, we have tools to handle Minnesota-specific tax calcs, tax capacity, fiscal disparity. We understand PRISM, the requirements on you and your county, the data and application requirements, and partner closely with you and the DOR to ensure you can provide timely and accurate submittals. Our solution manages records so that our valuation record can handle multiple classes per property. And with delinquency, we've configured our solution based on the Red Book requirements, so you can have confidence you'll have the tools and processes in place to manage this process from end to end. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move over to a live demonstration. I'm going to start by going through the Property Tax Manager interface and some of the tools available in the general product.
One second, Amy. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. Thanks, Brennan.
There we go. Hidden from me. There you go.
All right.
Sorry about that, guys.
Thanks, Brennan. All right, just give me a minute. Okay, so across the top, we have our ribbon. And, first of all, I want to note that I am logged in as an administrator. So based on my role, I have access to really all of the tools, reports, and data panels below. I do have the ability to toggle off and on some of the data panels by setting this toggle switch and turning on and off. I also, on this Home tab, have the ability to turn on and off different windows. So if I wanted to turn off something such as my workflow or my query, I could do that right here. I also have the ability to interact with each one of these windows, either by just clicking the X, or I also can pin them so they auto hide. So if I didn't want to use my query, I could pin it and it will hide when I am not using it. And I can do that for all of my different windows. And it's docked just right over here. I also have the ability to move some of these around. If I have multiple screens, I can simply just click on my map. I can move it to another screen. I can just double click it and it'll go right back to where it was. And over here on my tools window, I have my preferences, where I save preferences. So I can save those preferences. So the next time I launch the application, if I've had it set up, my window set up in a way that I like them, I can keep them there. So now that we're on the tools menu, there are some just key tools here. And again, as an administrator, I have access to things like my preferences, cash store management, payment entry, those kinds of things. And now, one thing I'm going to note, as you're looking at these different panels, I always have the ability to do a right click on one of these tools. If it's something I use very often, I can just do a right click and add it to my quick access toolbar. So over on one more thing on the report. So these are all the reports I have access to, again, based on my login, what permission I have. Now, these reports are mostly SSRS reports, and we also replicated the select sort reports from our current recap system. There are parameters within each of these reports that you can select to run the report with different criteria. You can run it right away. You can add it to a queue. You can schedule it to run later. And then again, this little query bar that I've hidden, I'm going to go ahead and pull it back out. And I have a couple options with queries and getting into the data. So like Al said, you can have multiple result sets, and the active result set, just by clicking on it, it'll change your actual panel, what data you're looking at, based on what you're working through, whether it be real property, tax account. It's also going to change what tools you have access to, what processes you have access to, based on the work you're doing at that time. So for the query builder, this is a complex query builder. You can really search for any data within the system. I have the ability to select any field, determine how I want to see it over in my display panel, and then add as multiple clauses and operators to get to that data that I need. This is where my saved queries and saved result sets are. So my queries, I can save here and rerun them, or I can also just save result sets to work with them at a later date. The great thing about the result sets is you always have the ability to get back to that query that was used to build that result set. I can also combine different result sets. I can export them to Excel. I can select multiple records, the entire result set, or even one property to launch a workflow from. So now that we're talking about workflow, well, let me one more thing on the query and searches. This is my complex query builder. I also have a simple query search. So I can search for different things like tax account, personal property, real property, and then just enter as much information as I have, whether it be first name, last name, address, And that's another way to pull back some records.
I think I forgot to add too, the wildcard search functionality exists as well too. So when I covered it, I missed that part, but simple or complex, you can use wildcards to pull up information.
Absolutely, thanks, Al. So over on the right, I do have my workflow tools. So I have my pooled tasks over here that can be assigned to a group. I can take them from here. I can assign them to another group, another person. I can assign and execute them. And if I just simply double click on a workflow, it will launch the process for me to start working through it and pull up the account information that I need and the tools that I need. So with that, I'm going to select this approve or reject workflow, and I'm going to switch to be working in the auditor's office. So now if I'm in the auditor's office, and part of my job is to review and approve tax adjustments and send out updated tax statements. So I'm going to come into work today, and one of the first things I'm going to do is look at my pooled tasks to see if there's anything new for me to be completed. So I do see there's a couple adjustments here for me to look at. And because our system is fully integrated with the billing and collection system and the AA system, not only is our data shared, but we also can send workflow tasks throughout the system to any user, whether it be in CAMA, AA, billing and collections, and really complete the full workflow of tasks such as this adjustment within the system. So I do see a couple of these workflows for adjustments. So let's take a look at this first one. I'm going to go ahead and double click, and it's going to pull up this account for me to look at. So it's going to load this adjustment in question, and it's going to show me what my before and after are. And sort of I can dig in. So I can roll right into this approval if I want to approve or reject it. But let's take a look at the data first and see. So I can just move this over, and let's take a look at the tax adjustment details. So I can see the high level information in this panel up here. So I can see the before taxes, I can see the adjustment, and then the after. And over here gives you some information about what occurred. The status is open. It looks like it was a tax roll adjustment, and it was a removal of an exclusion for homestead. And it looks like Amy Smith did that. So again, I could approve it right away just based on the information I'm seeing. Or if I'm not sure, if I haven't done one of these in a while, or if I just need to look at more information, I can dig in a little bit deeper. So let's take a look at what else is available for information here. So I'm going to open up the phase. So this, it looks like Amy was doing some maintenance, and that's where we are on the phase. If we look at the roll, and let's see. Going to pull up additional information. So another thing after looking, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unpin that so we have some more real estate. You can also, adjust a lot of these windows to see more information. And you also have the ability, there's a lot of, if you look at some of these columns, they have filter capabilities. They also have sum, so if you want to sum totals based on summaries, you can do that. You also can drag, if you want to group by different fields, you can do that, which is what I've done here for my tax unit. And that will save my preferences until I adjust it a different way, or I want to see it a different way, and but it'll persist. So this one looks like it has, so we have a pending supplemental because it's pending for my approval. Here's the total TMB before and after with the adjustment, and then the total taxes before and the total taxes after. which is my summary. And if I can see information on the valuation record, and then if I need to look at the tax unit and how it's impacting, I can actually expand this and see before or after the adjustment and the impact. So this looks like it's okay for me so far. And so I'm going to go ahead and approve. And so I would just go through here and click on approve. I'm not going to mark it for printing. I do have the ability, if I want to reprint it right now, I want to look at the tax bill before I print it, but I can add a reprint reason. Or if I'm rejecting this, I can also have the ability to put in a reason for rejection. So I'm going to hit next, and it's going to give me just a couple of notes on what process it's going to do when I click finish. So I'm approving this tax adjustment, and if there's supplemental roles to approve and other processes that need to happen, and then it'll post the adjustment to the bill. So I'm going to click finish, and then we can, oops, and that will be processed. So that was a quick walkthrough, and you know, that's just a quick walkthrough of the tax adjustment. And with that, I'm going to send it back to Brennan.
Excellent. Amy, Al, thank you.
Sure.
So before we jump into the question and answer or feedback portion of the demo and presentation today, Amy, let's wrap it up by just talking about next steps. Talk about how this, you know, next steps regarding implementation, perhaps, and why our partnership with, you know, an experience in Minnesota has been so crucial to developing this product.
Sure. Just to reiterate, this is an integrated tax and valuation system. We do have the ability to integrate with other third-party CAMA or tax solutions across the board. But the goal really for our solution is to streamline the day-to-day operations, provide our customers with better access to their data, give them tools to provide better reporting, make better decisions, and really partner with our customers in Minnesota and leverage our experience and with our customers.
And I think that goes back to, I guess, where we started too, is having that integrated system is really key, right? Not having to wait for batch interfaces that may come on a nightly basis to get information from your assessor's office. It would really drive productivity. And we're all using the same data. We're all using the same database with role-based security. So the information would flow from one office to the other seamlessly, and it's that streamlining that really gives us a great advantage. And the tenure, I can't press upon you enough here. Our tenure in Minnesota, it's a state with a fair amount of statutes and specific ways to do business as far as tax is concerned. So having that experience in Minnesota and building this product around those statutes and needs from the Department of Revenue to your individual offices really has helped us build a great tool.
Great. Well, let's jump right in. I know a few of you have already submitted a couple questions, but just to reiterate, you can submit any feedback or questions you may have for this period in time right now through the chat feature here on WebEx. Let's just dive right in. We had one come through, Amy, as you were demoing, and perhaps I'll pass it back to you for this question, but it says, where would I see the total that a particular person owes?
Oh, sure. You can pass it back to me. I can pull up.
Yeah, you can do it. You can. Yeah, there you go. So we can show them within the application.
Okay, so I have a tax account up here, and my bills, those kinds of things, but let's look at the actual, how a bill was adjusted or the impact there. So it's here's the original, any of the adjustments, any payments that are made, and then the balance, and where the details on the adjustment that were made. And, you know, if there's one thing to note on these data panels, if there was any prior payments that haven't been made or any other alerts, that would show up right here as well, to give you that quick identification that there's either prior taxes due or those kinds of things.
Great. And moving right along, another two-part question here that just came through. It says, how would I know an adjustment was made on a particular account? And then secondly, like what was the amount of the change, or where do you see the amount of that change?
Sure. I mean, I think that's one thing on this bill detail screen. This is one way of seeing it. The adjustment and change is right here. That's one way of seeing it. And then, you know, you can search for over in the query if you want to look at tax adjustments. I'm on simple query right now, but if I go to a complex query, I can actually search based on a tax adjustment. If I know an adjustment's been made and the value, there's a lot of options to get to different accounts that to see where the details.
And those views are customizable, correct? I mean, you can save your view. So when I started off saying that you have the My Tasks on the right and your Pool Tasks on the far right there, every one of those it's a customizable view, and you can save that. And it's not for office-wide, but it's for user. So the ability to customize the view for your day-to-day business is extremely helpful.
Yeah, exactly. And then one thing too to note just while we're here is because I'm searching for tax adjustments, here are all my saved queries associated with tax adjustments that if I want to pull up my tax roll adjustments, any pending tax adjustments, I can just simply click on that and it'll pull up all of my results. And if I click here, it'll show you what the query is and get you back to that. So.
Great. So not so much feature functionality in this next question, Amy and Al, more along the lines of implementation, but specifically how long, or estimating how long would this take to implement in my jurisdiction is what the question reads.
I can take this one. It's a good question because there's it's going to be specific per jurisdiction, right? Both Amy's and myself have implemented tax systems in a lot of different jurisdictions. It depends on what we look at as far as the beginning gap analysis, right? So we start with our group of requirements, we build to a gap analysis to understand the functionality that we need to get in place. We go through an implementation or a construction phase, the execution phase, we go into testing, and then finally implementation. Right now, I would say for most jurisdictions, it's in the 6 to 12 month time frame, and I have to give a range just until I see what that gap looks like. But I would say 6 to 12 months is an accurate representation of what an implementation should look like.
Fantastic. Well, that brings us actually right to the top of the 35-minute mark that we discussed in the opening. So if you have further questions or feedback, we'd love to get to those. Please send those along, or you can contact us directly. Al, who you've heard from today, will be our main point of contact. You can submit those directly to Al here. His contact information is here. But in recap, thanks for joining. Thanks for taking some time today. Again, we'll have our last in this 3-part web series next Thursday at 1 p.m. Central, where we go over our Clearview Valuation Manager. Again, a copy of this recording and the presentation slides will be in your inbox shortly as we wrap up today, or you can also visit our website on the News and Resources section to see last week's presentation and demo of our Clearview Valuation Analytics. So thanks for joining. For more information, contact us. You can contact Al Ailes at al.ailes@avenueinsights.com, and we look forward to speaking with you again soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.